The realtor's sign is still in Marcus's old yard, half sun-bleached, leaning against the fence where the new owners haven't gotten around to pulling it out yet. You drive past it on purpose sometimes, not to gloat, just to look, the way you'd look at a scar you remember getting. He bought that house at 34, at the top, the actual top, the week prices peaked in your metro before the correction everyone pretends they saw coming. You didn't buy anything that year. You didn't buy anything most years. You just kept renting and kept feeding a number nobody at any cookout has ever asked about. You are 34. Marcus finds a house he loves, 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, a street with good schools 2 towns over. It's listed at $460,000, and there are 6 offers in the first weekend, and he waives the inspection to compete, and he wins at $478,000, $18,000 over ask, in cash from the offer, but not from his pocket. Financed at 7.1% because rates had climbed hard that year, and everyone said they'd come back down eventually. His payment, all in with tax and insurance, is $3,140 a month. He tells you it's a stretch, but a good one. The kind of stretch that becomes normal in 2 years. You believe him. So does he. You look at the same market that spring. Rent for a decent 2-bedroom near your job is $1,890 a month. A comparable purchase, the math the way everyone else was doing it that year, would have run you close to Marcus's number. You do the arithmetic on a Sunday with a calculator app and a legal pad. And it isn't dramatic, it isn't a revelation, it's just a spreadsheet that says the gap between renting and buying at that price, at that rate, is about $1,250 a month, once you account for taxes, insurance, and the maintenance nobody budgets for. You don't decide anything noble. You just don't want to compete against 6 other offers for a house you're not sure is worth what people are suddenly convinced it's worth. Renting. You put the $1,250 into an index fund on the 3rd of every month, automatically, so you never have to feel the decision twice. You are 35. 6 months after Marcus closes, the correction starts. Slow at first, then not slow. Rates keep climbing because the Fed isn't done, and buyers who were competing for his house a year ago have mostly vanished. Priced out, or spooked, or both. The comparable 4-bedroom 2 streets over sells for $409,000 that autumn. Marcus doesn't check what his house is worth now. He tells you he doesn't check, which is its own kind of answer. His payment hasn't changed. The number attached to the house, on paper, in a database neither of you can see, has dropped by roughly $69,000 in 8 months. And none of it is real until the day he'd need it to be, which is not this day, and probably not for a long time. Your balance that year is $34,600. Put in $30,000 of it across 12 months of the $1,250 you didn't spend on a house. The market added the rest, while you signed a lease that renewed itself without incident. You are 37. Marcus's basement floods in March, a sump pump failure during a storm nobody flagged as unusual, and the cleanup and repair run $14,200. Most of it not covered because the policy's water damage clause has a carve-out for gradual seepage that the adjuster decides applies. A decision Marcus spends 6 weeks and $600 in his own money contesting before giving up. He puts the remainder on a HELOC at 9.8%, on top of a mortgage that's already 7.1%, on a house that on paper is worth less than what he financed it for. He doesn't say the word underwater to you. You don't say it either. It just sits in the room when you visit. You don't have a basement. You don't have a sump pump. Your landlord gets a call about a slow drain, and a plumber comes Thursday. That same month, you renew your lease at $1,970, up $80 from the year before, and you adjust your contribution down slightly to match, and the whole event costs you 4 minutes on a laptop. You are 39. Rates finally start coming down, slowly, and the market finds a floor and begins climbing again, the way it always eventually does. Marcus's house is worth $445,000 now, still $33,000 under what he paid. 5 years in, and he mentions this once, flatly, at a barbecue. Not as a complaint, just as a fact he's made peace with. The way you make peace with a haircut you didn't love. He's not underwater anymore on the loan itself. Years of payments have chipped the principal down enough that he'd break even on a sale, barely, if he sold today, which he has no plans to do, because where would he go? And starting over at these rates sounds worse than staying. Your balance is $89,300. You've contributed $58,000 of it. The other $31,300 was never yours to earn. It sat there while Marcus argued with an insurance adjuster about the definition of the word gradual. You are 42. A recruiter offers Marcus a job 2 states away. A real step up, more money, better title. The kind of offer you take at almost any cost. He turns it down. Not because he doesn't want it, because the house is worth $472,000 now. Finally past what he paid. And after the agent's cut and the remaining mortgage balance, selling would net him maybe $140,000, enough to make a move technically possible. But the thought of eating 5 years of a rate reset on a new mortgage in a new state, on top of moving costs, on top of starting the equity clock over from zero, makes the number on the page look smaller than it is. He tells you he's staying for the kid's school, and that's true. And it's also true that the house has become something he has to protect, instead of something that's only protecting him. You don't say that part out loud. You take the job you're offered that year too. A smaller move, 30 minutes across town for better pay, and it costs you exactly one broken lease fee, $400, and a Saturday with a rented truck. Your balance is $151,700. You've put in $88,000 of it. You are 45. Marcus refinances finally, rates having dropped enough to make it worth the closing costs, and his payment falls to $2,760 from $3,140. He's thrilled. He tells you the number like it's a win, and it is a win, a real one, hard-earned. 5 years of a heavier payment than he needed, finally correcting itself. What he doesn't mention, because he doesn't compute it this way, is that across those 5 years of the higher rate, he paid an extra $22,800 in interest that a market times 6 months later would never have cost him. Nobody's fault, nobody could have known. That's just what the top of a market costs the people who buy into it. Paid quietly, month by month, in a number too diffuse to ever show up as a single bad decision. In repairs, HELOCs, PMI, and a 5-year rate premium he never fully recovered from, on top of the mortgage itself. He tells you this over coffee, not bitterly, just plainly, the way a man describes weather he's stopped being surprised by. You've never once had a $16,800 problem show up out of nowhere. Your $1,600 a month has never had a bad month. Only a bad year in the market that corrected itself, the way it always does, given enough time and no panic. Your balance is $412,900. You've put in $211,000 of it. You are 55. Marcus's house is worth $580,000. It's the number everyone at the barbecue reacts to. The number that gets repeated. The number that makes him look, from the outside, like the one who won. He's not wrong to be proud of it. He built something real, survived a correction that would have broken plenty of people, and came out the other side, owning an asset outright, in a neighborhood with good schools that did exactly what he needed it to do for his kids. That part was never in question. What's never discussed at the barbecue is the other number, the one that waves quietly in an account he's never asked you about. Because a renter isn't the kind of person anyone thinks to ask. Your balance is $623,000. You've put in $256,000 of it across 2 decades. The other $367,000 was never yours to earn. It was time, given room to work, while you signed a lease every year, and let someone else worry about the roof, and the sump pump, and the adjuster's definition of the word, gradual. You are 60. Marcus sells. His kids are grown, the house is too big, and downsizing finally makes sense. It sells for $612,000. After the agent's cut, the remaining mortgage, and a capital gains conversation with an accountant he didn't expect to need. What lands in his account is $301,000, 26 years after he closed at the top of a market for $478,000. He calls it a good outcome. And it is one, genuinely. A real number, real equity, hard won across a correction and a flood, and a rate that took 5 years to make sense. It's just not the number the open house implied it would be, back when 6 people were competing for the privilege of overpaying for the same 4 walls. You never had a windfall like that. And you never will, because you never owned an asset that could produce one. What you had instead was $1,600 leaving quietly every month for 2 decades, while a fund did something in the background nobody at any barbecue ever asked you to explain. You are 62. Your balance is $781,000. Marcus has $301,000 in a savings account, earning almost nothing, plus whatever's left after buying the smaller place near his daughter. And he's fine. Genuinely fine. A man who built something with his hands and his signature for 26 years, weathered a flood and a correction and a rate reset, and came out with a real, tangible, defensible result. So did you. Yours just never needed a roof, and it never had a week where the value dropped $69,000 on paper, while you tried not to check. The realtor's sign is long gone from that old yard now, and Marcus doesn't drive past it anymore either, because there's nothing left there that's his. Somewhere tonight, a 34-year-old is standing in a bidding war for a house 6 other people want just as badly, doing the math on a stretch that sounds reasonable. The way every stretch sounds reasonable, in the room where you're making it. They don't know yet which side of the correction they're buying into. Nobody ever knows. Not really, not the week it happens. They'll find out the same way everyone always finds out, slowly, in a number that either grows quietly while they're not looking, or gets called equity while it's still underwater.